Imagine dedicating years of your life, meticulously saving every single penny, denying yourself every indulgence, all for one monumental dream: owning your very own home. That indescribable rush of pure, unadulterated achievement. Now, picture walking into that sanctuary after a long day, only to discover your front door lock has been tampered with, a chilling premonition of violation. What if I told you the perpetrators weren't strangers, but the very family you'd spent a lifetime trying to please? This isn't just a story about a house, it's a battleground for boundaries, a fight for self-worth, and a raw, unflinching look at what happens when family expectations collide with personal independence. Have you ever felt unseen, unheard, or had your hard-won achievements dismissed? This journey is about reclaiming what's yours, literally and figuratively, and the unexpected strength found in saying, no more. This might just sound familiar. If it does, hit that like button, subscribe to hear more stories of resilience, and let me know in the comments below, where do you draw the line? The dust had barely settled on my decades-long quest for independence when the universe decided to test my resolve in the most visceral way. For years, every ounce of my energy had been poured into my software engineering career, each paycheck meticulously hoarded, every indulgence forsaken. Chicago, my adopted city, demanded a hefty toll for existence, making the dream of homeownership feel perpetually out of reach. While my colleagues jetted off to sun-drenched beaches, I huddled in my minuscule studio, a monastic existence fueled by the singular vision of my own front door. It wasn't just about brick and mortar, it was about liberation from the suffocating embrace of a family dynamic that had always left me gasping for air. My parents, Richard and Nancy, had perfected the art of subtle manipulation, their golden child, Olivia, glittering in the spotlight while I, the perpetual odd one out, learned to navigate their labyrinthine expectations. Olivia, with her picture-perfect marriage to Frank and their trio of boisterous children, had always been their chosen narrative, a stark contrast to my unconventional path of education and career. They'd constantly swoop in to rescue Olivia and Frank from their self-made financial quagmires, yet when I stumbled, silence. I'd learned early on that my choices mighty, Jacob, the Seattle job, was subject to their veto, their guilt trips a finely honed weapon. So, when the possibility of buying my own home finally materialized, a quiet rebellion ignited within me. This, I vowed, would be mine. No input, no criticism, no attempts to steer my ship ashore in a harbor of their choosing. The house hunt itself was a crucible of emotions, weeks of relentless searching, neighborhoods blurring, mortgage rates dancing a dizzying jig. Then, like a whispered promise, Julia, my realtor, unveiled it. A two-story classic, a sentinel from the 1920s, nestled in an established, tree-lined street. The moment my foot crossed the threshold, a primal sense of belonging unfurled within me, an almost spiritual recognition. Sunlight streamed through generous windows, illuminating the gleaming hardwood floors, beckoning me toward a quaint reading nook tucked beneath the stairs, as if designed precisely for my soul. The kitchen, with its vintage farmhouse sink, whispered tales of bygone eras, while the clawfoot tub in the master ensuite promised luxurious solitude. The backyard, a verdant jewel, offered solace under the shade of an ancient oak. It was at the very precipice of my budget, a terrifying leap of faith, but I knew, with an undeniable certainty, this was it. The offer was made, accepted, and the inspection a mere formality. The day I signed the papers, the ink drying on my future, was a crescendo of pride. I had done this. All of it. On my own. No hidden hands, no familial lifelines. As I drove away, keys clutched tight, a triumphant roar echoed in my heart, untainted by the usual family interference. In retrospect, a nagging thought sometimes pricks me: what if I had told them sooner? But in that moment, only the intoxicating sweetness of self-made triumph filled my every fiber. Moving day dawned, a crisp April Saturday, painted in hues of sunshine. My meager possessions, accumulated from years of transient living, fit snugly into a small moving truck and the trunk of my car. By noon, my new home, albeit still an echo chamber of empty space, was officially mine. I tipped the movers, then stood alone, a solitary figure amidst a landscape of boxes, the vast emptiness stretching before me, pregnant with possibility. That first night was pure magic. Pizza box on the floor, a cheap bottle of wine, and endless lists scribbled under the soft glow of a solitary lamp. The house, in its wisdom, creaked and settled around me, each groan a comforting lullaby, a testament to its new ownership. Sleeping on an air mattress, enveloped by the silence of my own domain, was the most profound rest I'd known in years. The following weeks became a blow of joyful creation. Sage green paint transformed the living room, bookshelves sprang to life in the reading nook, and a plush sectional sofa became the anchor of my sanctuary. I scoured thrift stores and estate sales, each unearthed treasure: a dining room table from a couple downsizing after 50 years, a vintage desk from a retired professor imbuing my new space with stories, with soul. It was during this blissful period that Eleanor, my septuagenarian neighbor, a retired librarian with eyes that held centuries of wisdom, glided over with a blueberry pie, a warm welcome into her decades-long dominion. As we perched on my front porch, she spoke of the house's good bones and good energy, her gaze lingering on its facade. Then, a seemingly innocuous comment, a fleeting whisper that would later unravel everything: "This house reminds me of the old Peterson place, same architectural style." Were they built by the same company, I wonder? I shrugged it off, a mental note made and promptly forgotten amidst the exhilarating whirlwind of nesting. The third weekend, buoyant with pride, I hosted a housewarming. Maya, my bedrock best friend, arrived first, an oasis of calm amidst the chaos, bearing a potted plant and champagne. Zoe and Tyler, my kitchen-savvy friends, presented a gift basket brimming with essentials, while Ethan, my tech wizard colleague, meticulously installed a smart home system, his offering both practical and prophetic. Laughter cascaded through the rooms, discussions swirling around paint swatches and furniture placement. As we savored takeout around my new dining table, Maya, with her unerring sense of timing, lobbed the dreaded question: "So, when are your parents coming to see the place? I bet they'll be so proud." The table fell silent, the air thick with expectation. I took a deliberate sip of wine, the truth a bitter pill. "They don't know yet." Zoe choked on her drink, her eyes wide with incredulity. I launched into the familiar litany of parental interference, the suffocating history that had compelled my secrecy. Some friends nodded, understanding etched on their faces, others remained skeptical. "I get it," Tyler empathized, "my parents are the same way. But keeping it a secret indefinitely seems extreme." Ethan, ever the pragmatist, chimed in, "They'll find out eventually, won't it be worse the longer you wait?" Maya, who had witnessed the full spectrum of my family's dynamics, pulled me aside later, her voice a low murmur of concern. "I understand why you did this. But secrets have a way of creating bigger problems. The longer you wait, the more hurt they'll be." I conceded, the weight of her words settling heavily upon me. "I just want to enjoy this achievement on my own terms for a little while. I'll tell them when the time is right." Her parting words were a chilling prophecy: "Just don't wait too long. The right time has a way of never arriving." Alone on my porch swing, Maya's counsel swirled with my own stubborn resolve. A part of me knew she was right, but another, more defiant part, reveled in this sanctuary, untainted by judgment. One more month, I decided, to truly settle in, to savor this hard-won freedom. The ensuing weeks were a symphony of small joys: coffee in the backyard, working from my sun-drenched home office, evenings spent exploring the neighborhood's hidden nooks. I joined the community garden, enrolled in a furniture restoration class, each new endeavor a testament to my burgeoning independence. For the first time, I felt utterly in control. Yet, subtle dissonances began to intrude. Twice, an unfamiliar car lingered across the street, vanishing before I could catch a glimpse of the driver. Once, A prickling sensation of being watched chilled me as I unloaded groceries. I dismissed them as the paranoia of a woman living alone, yet installed motion sensor lights, just in case. Oh, how I wish I had recognized those as the first tremors of the earthquake that was about to shatter my carefully constructed peace. A month after moving in, as I diligently pruned my roses, Eleanor arrived, a thermos of iced tea in hand. We sat on the steps, the tranquility of the neighborhood a stark contrast to the burgeoning unease in my gut. I was looking through some old photo albums yesterday, Eleanor began, her voice a gentle current, and I found something interesting. She handed me a faded photograph, a snapshot from the 70s. In the background, unmistakably, was my house, shutters a different hue, but undeniably familiar. The Millers owned it then, she continued, before them, the Johnsons. And before that, I believe, a family named Anderson. Relatives of yours, perhaps. My head snapped up, a jolt of ice water through my veins. Why would you think they were my relatives? Eleanor's surprise was genuine. Oh, I just assumed. Your real estate agent mentioned something about the house staying in the family, coming full circle. I thought that's why you chose it. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frenzied drum. What exactly did she say? Eleanor, now clearly sensing my distress, recounted the realtor's casual remark, something about how nice it was that the house had come full circle, back to the original family. Eleanor studied my ashen face. You didn't know, did you? I shook my head slowly, my mind a whirlpool of unsettling possibilities. Anderson was a common name, yes, but this felt different. After Eleanor left, a cold knot of dread tightening in my stomach, I dialed my mother, feigning casual conversation. Our chats were usually performative dances, her extolling Olivia's children, me offering carefully curated snippets of my professional life. This time, I steered the ship, cautiously, towards the perilous waters of family history. Mom, I was thinking about Grandma Rose. Did she and Grandpa ever live in the city, or were they always in the suburbs? A beat of silence, then her clipped reply. They had a place in the city when they first married, north side somewhere. Why do you ask? Just curious, I lied, my voice thin. Walking through an old neighborhood, wondered if they might have lived there. Her voice sharpened, laced with suspicion. Which neighborhood? Westridge Gardens, I said, naming my new haven. The silence that followed was so profound, I thought the line had died. Mom, are you there? Her voice, when it finally came, was taut, stretched thin. Yes? Pam, is there something you need to tell us? Your father and I were just talking about how we haven't seen your apartment in over a year. I stammered, nothing specific, just reminiscing. Her tone abruptly brightened, unnervingly artificial. Well, speaking of housing, Olivia and Frank are looking for a new place. Frank lost his job, they need to downsize. Your father and I are helping them look. We might have found something perfect, actually. A charming, older home, enough bedrooms for the kids. My stomach coiled into a painful knot. That's nice of you to help them. Family helps family, Pam. The unspoken accusation hung heavy, a familiar shroud. She then launched into a flurry of questions about dinner, a transparent attempt to reassert control. I mumbled excuses and ended the call, my mind racing. Minutes later, Olivia's text pinged. Mom says you were asking about Grandma's old house. Weird coincidence. We are actually looking at houses in that area. Where are you living these days? Still in that tiny studio. I didn't reply, my gaze fixed on the unsettling connection between my new home and the tangled roots of my family. That evening, I plunged into the closing documents, desperate for a clue. The chain of title was pristine, 6 previous owners since the 1950s, none bearing my surname. But what lay beyond? I remembered Aunt Jane, my mother's distant relative, the unofficial family historian. Though our interactions were usually limited to birthday cards, I knew she held the keys to the past. I found her number, my voice laced with forced casualness, as I explained my family history project. Aunt Jane, did Grandma and Grandpa Anderson ever own a house in Westridge Gardens, on Sycamore Street, specifically? A long, pregnant pause. Then, her voice laced with knowing. How did you find out about that house, Pam? My heart plummeted. It was true. Yes, they did. Their first home after they married in '48. They lived there until 65, moved to the suburbs for schools when your mother was 10. And what happened to it? I pressed, my voice barely a whisper. They kept it as a rental. When your grandfather died in '88, he left it to your mother and her brother, your Uncle David, with the understanding it would stay in the family. But about 15 years ago, when the market was booming, they sold it. Your uncle needed money for his business, and your parents, they wanted to help Olivia buy her first house. The pieces clicked into place, a mosaic of betrayal. My voice, raw with bitterness, emerged. So they sold a family heirloom to help Olivia. Aunt Jane, ever the diplomat, chose her words carefully. It was a difficult decision. Your grandfather would have been disappointed. He always talked about keeping that house in the family. But times change. And people make choices based on immediate needs. After thanking her, I sat in my living room, the walls seeming to press in, the very air thick with ghosts. This house, my house, had been in my family, meant for generations, sacrificed for Olivia. And now, by an agonizing twist of fate, I had bought it back, unknowingly reclaiming a piece of history that had been ripped from our lineage. The irony was a cruel, perfect punch to the gut. My secret purchase, meant to shield me from their interference, had inadvertently made me the epicenter of a family drama I could never have foreseen. 3 days later, after a team dinner, I returned home, the late hour casting long, ominous shadows. It was almost 9 when my key clicked in the lock, and the moment I stepped inside, a cold, undeniable certainty enveloped me. Something was profoundly wrong. Nothing was overtly disturbed, yet subtle shifts screamed betrayal. A dining chair, subtly askew. The throw pillow on the couch, not quite where I'd left it. And then, the ultimate desecration, an unfamiliar coffee mug, sitting innocently in my pristine kitchen sink. Someone had been here. My first instinct was to dial 911, my hand shaking as it reached for my phone, but then I remembered Ethan's housewarming gift, a comprehensive security system, complete with motion-activated indoor cameras. With trembling fingers, I fumbled with the app on my phone, scrolling back through the day's footage. What I saw made my blood run to ice. At 2:15 p.m., a familiar car glided into my driveway. My parents emerged, followed by Olivia. My mother, with an almost theatrical flourish, produced a key, inserting it into my lock. It refused to turn. She tried again, rattling the doorknob in a paroxysm of frustration. They huddled, conferring conspiratorially on the porch, before retreating to their car. The next clip, timestamped 3:45, showed their return, this time with a fourth figure, a man I didn't recognize, carrying a toolbox. A locksmith. I watched, aghast, as they gestured frantically at my door, my father presenting what looked like paperwork. The locksmith, after a brief examination, shook his head, packed up his tools, and departed, leaving my family standing on the porch, a tableau of thwarted ambition. The final clip, 4:30 p.m., showed them returning once more. This time, my mother wielded a different key, but it, too, failed. My father, his face contorting in a mixture of surprise and dawning recognition, looked directly at the doorbell camera, the unblinking eye of my surveillance. They fled abruptly after that. I sank onto my couch, a tremor running through me, a chilling cocktail of rage and disbelief. My family, my own family, had attempted to invade my home, not once, but thrice in a single day. They had brought a locksmith, intending to change my locks. The violation was so extreme, so utterly unthinkable, it felt like a nightmare. I immediately called Maya, her gasp of horror echoing my own. "They did what?" she exclaimed after I recounted the chilling narrative. "That's breaking and entering, Pam. Or at least attempted breaking and entering." "I don't understand how they even knew this was my house," I whispered, the words catching in my throat. "I never told them I bought a place, let alone this specific house." "Could your real estate agent have said something? Or a neighbor?" Maya probed, ever the pragmatist. "Maybe. But how did they get a key? That's what really scares me." "You need to confront them," Maya declared, her voice firm, unwavering. "This is beyond inappropriate. It's illegal." "I know," I choked out, "I just can't believe they would do this." "Call them right now. Put it on speaker. I want to hear their explanation." With Maya still on the line, I dialed my parents' landline. My father answered on the second ring, his voice laced with concern. "Pam? Is everything okay? You never call this late." "No, everything is not okay," I spat, fighting to control the tremor in my voice. "I know you came to my house today. I know you tried to get in with a key. And when that didn't work, you brought a locksmith. I want an explanation, right now." A long, suffocating silence stretched between us, followed by muffled voices, a frantic exchange between my parents. Then, my mother's voice, sharp and icy, sliced through the air. "Pamela. We were going to call you tomorrow. We didn't realize you had changed the locks." She only used my full name when she was truly furious, or deeply on the defensive. "Changed them, Mom? How did you even know where I live? How did you get a key to my house in the first place?" "We've known about the house for weeks," she declared, as if it were a self-evident truth. "Julia Ramirez is my cousin's daughter-in-law. When she told us you were buying the Anderson house, we could hardly believe it. Julia, my realtor." The realization slammed into me with the force of a physical blow. Of course. Her unusually detailed questions, her seemingly innocent inquiries, it all made a grotesque sense now. "That still doesn't explain why you thought it was okay to enter my home without permission," I raged, my voice rising. "Or why you brought a locksmith." My father took the phone back, his tone now an oily calm. "Now, Pam, don't be dramatic. We weren't breaking in. That house belonged to your grandparents. We were simply coming to discuss the situation with you." "What situation? And why not call me first?" "We tried," my mother's voice shrieked from the background. "You never answer." "The situation," my father continued, his voice regaining its placating cadence, "is that we had been planning to help Olivia and Frank buy that house. We've been watching the market for years, waiting for it to become available again. It was supposed to be for them." My mind reeled, grasping for purchase. "What do you mean, supposed to be for them?" "Your sister needs that house, Pam. They have 3 children. Frank lost his job. They are about to lose their rental. We promised them we'd help them get a bigger place. And when the Anderson house came on the market, it seemed perfect. We were getting the financing in order when you swooped in and bought it." "I didn't swoop in," I protested, the absurdity of their accusation fueling my indignation. "I had no idea about any of this. I fell in love with the house and bought it, end of story." "Well, we need to fix this," my mother's voice, now back on the line, oozed false concern. "Olivia is devastated. The children were so excited about having their own rooms in the new house. Fix this." "There is nothing to fix. I bought this house legally. It is mine." "Don't be selfish, Pam," my mother snapped, her composure finally cracking. "You're one person. You don't need a 3-bedroom house. Your sister has a family. That is not the point. I was screaming now, my voice raw. You cannot just decide my house belongs to Olivia because you think she needs it more. We will discuss this in person, my father interjected, his voice attempting to regain control. Clearly there has been a misunderstanding. We will come by tomorrow evening. Before I could protest, the line went dead. I stared at my phone, a hollow ache blossoming in my chest. Did you hear all that? I asked Maya, who had remained a silent witness. Every word, she confirmed, her voice filled with quiet outrage. Pam, this is insane. They are treating you like a child who took a toy from her sister. This is your house. You bought it with your own money. They are coming tomorrow, I whispered, the adrenaline draining from me, leaving behind a profound exhaustion. What am I going to do? You are going to stand your ground, Maya declared, her voice a steel rod of support. This is your home, not theirs, not Olivia's. Yours. After we hung up, I walked through each room of my house, my fingers tracing the walls, the furniture, the carefully chosen objects that now felt like extensions of my very soul. The raw knowledge that my family had attempted to invade this space, had plotted to seize it from me without a word, solidified into a fierce, unyielding resolve. This house was mine, and I would not allow anyone, not even family, to wrench it away. The next day at work, my mind was a chaotic tempest, every thought a battle. I informed my manager of a family emergency and fled, taking the afternoon off to brace myself for the impending onslaught. My first stop, a hardware store, where I purchased an arsenal of security enhancements, additional cameras for blind spots, a video doorbell, window sensors, motion-activated floodlights. Then, a locksmith of my own, tasked with changing every exterior lock, a steel deadbolt now fortifying my bedroom door, a physical manifestation of my desperate need for sanctuary. At precisely 6 o'clock, a minivan glided into my driveway, followed by my parents' sedan. I watched through the window, a cold dread snaking through me, as not just my parents and Olivia emerged, but Frank and all 3 of their children. They had brought the entire clan, as if this were a casual Sunday dinner, not a declaration of war. I opened the door before they could knock, or worse, try another key. I didn't realize everyone was coming, I stated, my voice a thin wire of control. We thought it would be good for you to see the whole family, my mother chirped, ushering the children inside without a shred of invitation. Pam, you remember your niece and nephews? Emma's 8 now, Jake's 6, and little Michael just turned 4. The children, wide-eyed, filed past me, their innocent curiosity a chilling counterpoint to the tension thrumming in the air. Emma, the eldest, looked up, her voice clear as a bell. Mommy says this is going to be our new house. I get the room with the window seat, right? I shot a glare at Olivia, who, for a fleeting moment, had the grace to look utterly mortified. Emma, we talked about this, she muttered, nothing's decided yet. Let us all sit down and discuss this like adults, my father declared, striding into my living room, as if he owned the very floorboards beneath his feet. I followed, seething, yet determined to maintain a precarious calm. Once everyone was settled, my mother, ever the strategist, suggested the children play in the backyard until Frank's brother arrived to whisk them away for ice cream, leaving the adults to their grim task. The moment the backyard gate clicked shut, I turned to them, my voice firm, unwavering. Before anyone says anything else, I want to make it absolutely clear, this is my house. I bought it legally, with my own money. I had no idea about its connection to our family until after I moved in. And I certainly had no idea you were planning to buy it for Olivia. Olivia, who had been meticulously inspecting every corner of the room, burst into theatrical tears. It's not fair, Pam. You know we've been struggling since Frank lost his job. The landlord's selling our rental, and we have to be out by the end of the month. Where are we supposed to go? Frank, A tall man whose eyes perpetually smoldered with resentment leaned forward, his voice a low growl. Your sister has 3 kids, Pam. 3. What do you need all this space for? Just you and your laptop, come on. My personal space requirements are not the issue here, I retorted, my voice trembling with suppressed fury. The issue is that all of you seem to think you have some claim to my home, to the point of trying to break in and change my locks. No one was breaking in, my father insisted, his face a mask of indignation. We have keys. Or at least we had keys before you changed the locks. How did you even get keys? I never gave you any. My mother, her gaze darting away, averted her eyes, a telltale sign of impending obfuscation. Julia had an extra set from the showing, she murmured, barely audible. She thought we might want to see the place, given the family connection. That is completely unprofessional, and possibly illegal. I exploded, the carefully constructed dam of my composure beginning to crack. She gave you keys to a house that didn't belong to you, without the owner's permission. Why are you being so difficult about this? Olivia wailed, her tears now a full-blown torrent. We need this house more than you do. The kids have already picked out their rooms. They are so excited about the backyard. You told your children they were moving into my house without even speaking to me first. I demanded, incredulity warring with incandescent rage. We tried to call you, my mother repeated, her voice rising. You never answer. That is not true, and you know it. I shot back. I spoke to you just last week, and you never mentioned anything about wanting to buy this house. We were working out the details, my father interjected, we didn't want to get everyone's hopes up until we were sure. And then you had to go and buy it right out from under us. Frank added, bitterness dripping from every word. I did not buy it right out from under you. I insisted. I had no idea you were interested in this property. None of you ever mentioned it. A tense, suffocating silence descended upon the room. My mother leaned forward, adopting the saccharine, reasonable tone she reserved for moments of profound manipulation. Pam, darling, we understand you didn't know. But now that you do, surely you can see that this house makes more sense for Olivia and her family. They need the space. You don't. So what exactly are you suggesting? I asked, though a cold premonition already whispered the answer. We have a proposal, my father announced, his voice carefully measured. You sell the house to us, at the price you paid for it. No profit, but no loss either. We'll cover all the closing costs and fees. Or, Olivia interjected, her eyes glinting with a predatory hope, if you don't want to sell, maybe we could all live here together for a while. Just until we find something else. You could keep the small bedroom upstairs, and we would take the master and the other room for the kids. I stared at them, speechless, my mind struggling to process the sheer audacity of their demand. You want me to give up the master bedroom in my own house and squeeze into the small bedroom, so you can move your entire family in. It would only be temporary. Frank insisted, though his tone suggested otherwise. 6 months, maybe a year tops. Absolutely not. I roared, the last shreds of my composure dissolving into a maelstrom of fury. I am not selling my house, and I am certainly not turning it into a shared living space with 5 additional people. See? Frank exploded, turning to my parents, his face contorted in triumphant vindication. I told you she would be selfish about this. She has always been the selfish one. Frank? Olivia hissed, but the damage was done. What do you mean, always been the selfish one? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet, a cold fire igniting within me. What exactly have you all been saying about me? No one met my gaze. My mother sighed heavily, a martyr's lament. Pam, you have to understand. Family helps family. Olivia has always understood that. She and Frank would do anything for us, for the whole family. You have always been more independent. More focused on yourself. More focused on myself. I nearly choked on the words, a hysterical laugh bubbling up from my throat. Are you kidding me? You mean because I went to college instead of getting married at 20? Because I built a career instead of having children right away? Because I saved for my own house instead of asking you to buy one for me? That's not fair. Olivia protested, her voice rising. We are not asking them to buy a house for us, just to help with the down payment. Like they helped with your first house? I asked, my voice dripping with venom, the one you lost to foreclosure. Because Frank insisted on renovating with money you didn't have. Or the second one that you had to sell at a loss when you decided the neighborhood wasn't good enough anymore. That's enough, my father snapped, his face contorted in a mixture of anger and embarrassment. We didn't come here to dredge up the past. No, I countered, my voice shaking with righteous fury, you came here to take my house. And I think we are finally getting to the truth of why. I strode to the built-in cabinet in the dining room, pulling out a folder of documents I had meticulously compiled after my call with Aunt Jane. This house belonged to Grandma and Grandpa Anderson, I declared, laying photocopies of old deeds and tax records on the table like incriminating evidence. They left it to you and Uncle David, Mom, with the understanding that it would stay in the family. But you sold it to help Olivia buy her first house. My mother blanched, her face draining of color. How did you find out about that? Aunt Jane told me. She also told me how disappointed Grandpa would have been. This house was supposed to stay in the family for generations. We needed the money, my mother said defensively, her voice a thin thread. Olivia and Frank were starting their family. They needed help. And now, by complete coincidence, I have bought back the family home with my own money. I roared, and instead of being happy that it's back in the family, you want to take it from me and give it to Olivia, again. No one spoke. The silence was absolute, suffocating. Then, Frank pushed himself to his feet, his chair scraping loudly across the hardwood floor. This is bull, he bellowed. We need that house. We have kids, for God's sake. Frank, sit down, my father ordered, his voice strained. We are trying to handle this civilly. But Frank was a runaway train, years of suppressed resentment erupting. No. I'm done being civil. Pam has always gotten special treatment because she's the smart one, the successful one. Meanwhile, we've been busting our asses trying to provide for our family. And now we are about to be homeless because she wants to play house. Special treatment. I nearly choked on the words, a hysterical laugh escaping my lips. Are you kidding me? Olivia has always been the favorite, always. Mom and Dad have bailed you two out of every financial mess you've created while I have had to work for everything I have. Oh, poor Pam, Olivia mocked, her face twisted in a sneer. So oppressed with your six-figure job, and your fancy degree. Some of us chose family over career, you know. And that was your choice. I screamed, finally losing all semblance of composure. Just like this is my house. My choice. The argument escalated into a cacophony of accusations, a torrent of years-old resentments bubbling to the surface. It tumbled out. My parents had already measured rooms, planned furniture placement, before even speaking to me. Olivia, shamefaced, admitted to driving by regularly, trying to catch glimpses inside. Frank, with a brazen swagger, revealed they had already given notice on their rental, utterly convinced they would be moving into my home. The final, brutal blow came from my mother, her voice dripping with disappointment, a poisoned arrow aimed straight at my heart. I never thought you would put a house above your own family, Pam. What would Grandma say if she knew you were keeping her home from her great-grandchildren? Something snapped. A raw, visceral fury erupted within me. Grandma would say that I worked hard and earned this home on my own, without taking anything from anyone else. She would be proud that I brought the house back into the family through my own efforts, not by manipulating and guilting others into giving me what I want. I stood, trembling, my body alight with righteous indignation. I think you all need to leave now. This is my house. I bought it legally. I am not selling it, and I am not sharing it. If you want to help Olivia and Frank, help them find another place, just like I found this one on my own. Pam, be reasonable, my father started, but I cut him off, my voice sharp as a razor. I am being reasonable. What is unreasonable is trying to claim ownership of something that is not yours. What is unreasonable is copying keys and bringing a locksmith to someone else's home. What is unreasonable is telling your children they are moving into a house that does not belong to you. I walked to the front door, yanking it open, the cold night air a welcome gust against the suffocating tension within. Please, leave now. One by one, they filed out, my mother, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs, my father, his face a grim mask, Olivia, her eyes burning with resentment, Frank, muttering darkly under his breath. As they gathered the bewildered children from the backyard, Emma's innocent voice pierced the night. Are we not moving into Aunt Pam's house, after all? The question, so pure, so devoid of malice, yet so utterly devastating, was the final wound in a night filled with them. I slammed the door shut, engaging every lock, then slid to the floor, finally allowing the torrent of tears to break free. The next morning, for the first time in years, I called in sick, my head pounding, my soul a hollow echo chamber of pain and exhaustion. But amidst the wreckage, a new resolve, steel hard and unyielding, began to coalesce. This was my home, and I would protect it with every fiber of my being. My first call was to Rachel Goldstein, a formidable lawyer specializing in real estate and family law, recommended by Maya. Rachel, after listening to my harrowing tale, was unequivocal. Based on what you've told me, your position is crystal clear. You are the legal owner. Your family has no claim, regardless of history or expectations. I cautiously probed, could they try to make a legal claim based on it being family property? No, Rachel stated firmly. The chain of title is clean. Your mother and uncle sold it legally. Your subsequent purchase creates no reversionary right for other family members. She advised, meticulously documenting everything, changing all locks and security codes, and issuing a formal cease and desist if the pressure continued. What about the real estate agent? I asked, a fresh wave of indignation washing over me. She gave copies of my house keys to my parents without my knowledge or consent. That is a serious ethical violation, Rachel confirmed. You should report her to the State Real Estate Commission and the local Realtor Association. You might also have grounds for a civil complaint. Armed with legal certainty, I left Rachel's office, a fragile new confidence blooming within me. On the way home, I fortified my defenses. A video doorbell, window sensors, motion-activated floodlights. That evening, I became a fortress builder, installing devices, changing every password, every digital key to my domain. My phone, meanwhile, was a buzzing hive of guilt-tripping messages. Group texts from my parents, Olivia's passive-aggressive photo of sad-faced children, even distant relatives, clearly fed a skewed narrative, piled on the emotional pressure. Aunt Carol, your mother is heartbroken. How could you be so cruel? Cousin Beth, family should come first. Shame on you. Uncle David, your grandfather would be so disappointed. The last one stung, coming from the very uncle who profited from the original sale. I blocked them all, needing space to breathe, to think, free from the insidious tendrils of their manipulation. Maya arrived later, a beacon of calm, with takeout and wine. You're doing the right thing, she affirmed, surveying my new security measures. They are trying to bulldoze your boundaries because it's always worked before. I just can't believe they expected me to give up my house, I murmured, the sheer audacity still a bitter pill. Because they are used to you giving, Maya countered, her words a truth serum. You gave up your dream school, ended relationships, turned down career opportunities. They thought this would be no different. Her words resonated, a painful, yet liberating, epiphany. This pattern, this insidious dance, had defined my entire adult life, yet I had never seen it with such stark clarity. The next day, I immersed myself in work, code a comforting balm to my raw emotions. During lunch, curiosity gnawed at me. I searched property records online, tracing the true lineage of my home. It was as Aunt Jane had described, grandparents from 1948 to 1965, then a rental, then inherited by my mother and uncle in 1988. They sold it in 2003, using the proceeds to help Olivia and Frank buy their first home, a sprawling suburban dream that vanished into foreclosure in 2008 when Frank lost his job. My parents, ever the saviors, then helped them with a second, smaller house in 2010, which they sold at a loss in 2015 when Frank embarked on a shaky entrepreneurial venture. Since then, rentals, their rent often subsidized by my parents. The pattern was glaring, sickeningly clear, endless financial lifelines for Olivia, while I toiled and saved alone. And now, having achieved something monumental through my own grit, they felt entitled to claim it. Strengthened by this painful clarity, I drafted an email, its tone deliberately calm, meticulously precise, to my entire family. I want to clarify some things about the current situation with my house. I purchased this property legally, with my own money, without knowing its connection to our family history. I understand that Olivia and Frank are in a difficult position, but that does not entitle them to my home. I am willing to help in other ways. I can assist with their housing search, or even offer a loan toward their security deposit. What I cannot and will not do is give up my home. I ask that you respect my boundaries. Do not come to my house uninvited. Do not contact me with guilt trips or accusations. And please understand that this decision is final. I appended links to rental listings, suitable for their budget, a tangible olive branch, offered on my terms. The responses were a predictable mosaic: silence from my parents, a terse thanks, but no thanks from Olivia. Some distant relatives offered belated apologies, admitting they hadn't known the full story. Others doubled down, their judgment a blunt weapon. Through it all, I stood firm. The security system now hummed with silent vigilance, Ethan-S cameras covering every entrance. Julia, my conniving realtor, faced a formal complaint with the Real Estate Commission. Every interaction was meticulously logged, a testament to Rachel's wise counsel. A week after the raw confrontation, my father appeared, alone, at my doorstep. The security system's alert chimed, and I watched on my app as he stood on my porch, his gaze meeting the camera's unblinking eye. "Pam, I know you can see me," he said, his voice a strained whisper. "I just want to talk. No pressure. No demands. Just talk." I opened the door, but did not invite him in, gesturing to the porch swing. He nodded, accepting this new boundary, a fragile truce. We sat in an awkward silence, the air thick with unspoken words. "Your mother and I have been thinking," he finally began, his voice gravelly, "we may have overreacted about the house situation." I waited, offering no easy absolution. "It was a shock, seeing you buy this place out of the blue. It brought up a lot of complicated feelings about your grandparents, about promises we made. But that doesn't excuse how we handled it." "No, it doesn't," I agreed, my voice a quiet steel. "We are trying to help Olivia and Frank find another place," he continued, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "Something more sustainable for their situation. And we are encouraging Frank to look for steady employment, rather than the commission-based work he's been doing." I nodded cautiously, a fragile optimism stirring within me. "I can't speak for your mother or your sister right now. They are still processing. But I wanted you to know that I respect that this is your house. You earned it. And I'm proud of you for that. Even if I haven't shown it. It wasn't a full apology, not by a long shot, but it was a beginning. As he rose to leave, he handed me a small, wrapped package. I found this in the attic. I thought you might like to have it. Inside, a faded black and white photograph, my grandparents, young and radiant, standing before my house, on what appeared to be their moving day in 1948. They mirrored my own joy, my own hope, on the day I received my keys. Thank you, I said, genuinely touched. As he walked to his car, I called after him, my voice carrying across the quiet evening. Dad, I meant what I said in my email. I'm happy to help them find a new place. Just not this one. He nodded, his shoulders slumping slightly. I know. And that's more than fair. It was a tiny crack in the wall of decades of dysfunction, but a crack nonetheless. For the first time, a member of my family had acknowledged my right to my own space, my own boundaries. It felt like a hard-won victory, etched in the scars of battle, but a victory nonetheless. The weeks that followed were a grueling test of my newfound resolve. A deafening silence enveloped me from my mother and Olivia, punctuated only by terse messages about family obligations, or pointed remarks about their ongoing housing search. Frank, it seemed, had heeded my father's advice, securing a stable, albeit lower-paying, job at an insurance company, a desperate grab for stability. Through whispered conversations with mutual friends, I learned they had found a 3-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood, not the sprawling fantasy of my home, but a comfortable, within-budget reality. My offer of help with their deposit went unanswered, their pride still a festering wound from the confrontation. During this period, I poured my soul into making my house unequivocally mine. A vibrant vegetable garden now thrived in the backyard, kitchen cabinets gleamed in a cheerful blue, and the last of my boxes finally yielded their contents. Each improvement was a defiant declaration: this is my home, my sanctuary, my hard-won achievement. Eleanor became a regular fixture, a comforting presence, bearing homemade bread and whispered neighborhood tales. She never pried, but her quiet support was a lifeline. Maya and my other friends rallied, transforming my new space into a hub of laughter and shared meals. On a personal level, I embarked on a journey of introspection, seeking solace and guidance from Dr. Melissa Chen, a therapist specializing in family dynamics and boundary setting. The guilt you feel is programmed, Dr. Chen explained during one session. Your family trained you to prioritize their needs above your own. Breaking that pattern feels wrong, because it contradicts everything they taught you about your role in the family system. Slowly, painstakingly, I began to dismantle the insidious internal voice that whispered doubts, that questioned my right to self-preservation. I practiced saying no, starting with small, inconsequential requests at work, gradually extending this newfound assertiveness to family interactions. 3 months after the confrontation, my mother called. Our conversation was a carefully choreographed dance around the elephant in the room. She spoke of a cousin's wedding, a new restaurant, Olivia's oldest starting soccer. I offered neutral updates about work and my flourishing garden. Just as we prepared to hang up, she surprised me. The blue hydrangeas you planted in the front yard look lovely. I drove by last week. It was the closest she had come to acknowledging my home as truly mine. Thank you, I replied, a tentative hope blooming in my chest. Grandma had blue hydrangeas at the old house, according to the photos. I thought it would be a nice connection. She would like that, my mother said softly. Then, after a pause, a fragile whisper of an invitation. Maybe I could come see the garden sometime. Just to visit, not to, well, you know. I would like that, I said, feeling a fragile bridge beginning to form across the chasm that separated us. A week later, she came for tea. We sat in the garden, discussing trivialities, painstakingly rebuilding a relationship that had been shattered, but not utterly destroyed. She brought a box of old family photos, several depicting my grandparents, young and full of life, in the very house where we now sat today. "Your grandfather built these garden beds," she said, pointing to the raised wooden boxes where my vegetables now thrived. "He loved gardening. You get that from him, I think." It was the first time she had ever connected me to my grandfather in such a way, acknowledging a shared trait, rather than a disparaging comparison to Olivia. It felt like a small, yet profoundly significant shift. Over the next few months, these visits became regular, though my father rarely joined her. Olivia remained distant, her wounds still too fresh. But at Christmas, 6 months after the initial storm, a card arrived, a photo of her family smiling in front of their new apartment. The message inside was simple, an olive branch, small but meaningful: "Happy holidays from our home to yours." I called her that evening, and though our conversation was brief and punctuated by awkward pauses, it was a start. The true test arrived in April, on the 1-year anniversary of my moving into the house. I decided to host a small gathering, inviting my friends, and after much deliberation, my family. Maya, ever my steadfast companion, helped me prepare, both practically with food and decorations, and emotionally for whatever might unfold. "Remember, this is your home," she reminded me, her voice a soothing balm. "You are inviting them on your terms. You get to set the boundaries." To my utter astonishment, they all came. My parents, Olivia and Frank, even the children. The atmosphere, initially strained, gradually softened as the evening progressed. The kids, unleashed, explored the backyard, their delighted shrieks echoing from the treehouse Ethan and I had built. My father, with a genuine smile, admired the architectural details I had restored. Olivia, for the first time, offered a comment about my decorating choices that was imbued with appreciation, not envy. After dinner, as we lingered over coffee and dessert, my mother raised her glass, her voice slightly tremulous. "I would like to make a toast," she began, "to Pam, for bringing this house back into our family, and for making it such a beautiful home." The simple acknowledgement, so profoundly deserved, brought tears to my eyes. It wasn't a full apology for the pain they had inflicted, but it was an acceptance of my place in this house, my rightful claim to this space. Later, as guests were leaving, Olivia pulled me aside, her eyes softer than I'd ever seen them. "The kids would love to come visit more often, if that's okay with you. They really like the treehouse." "I would like that," I said, genuinely. "They are welcome any time." With advance notice, I added, a small smile playing on my lips, a gentle reminder of the boundaries. She nodded, understanding flickering in her eyes. "Of course." As I closed the door behind the last guest, a profound sense of peace settled over me, a tranquility born of hard-won battles. This house, once the epicenter of so much family drama, had, paradoxically, become the catalyst for healing, a space where new, healthier relationships were slowly taking root. By standing firm in my right to my own space, I had, unexpectedly, created room for deeper, more authentic connections with my family. The journey had been arduous, painful, but ultimately necessary. I had learned that true family support means honoring each other's independence and choices, not making demands in the name of familial obligation. I had discovered my own strength, the unwavering importance of setting clear boundaries. Most importantly, I had learned that it is possible to love your family deeply, profoundly, while still loving and prioritizing yourself. 1 year after buying my house, I finally felt truly at home, not just within these walls, but within the deepest chambers of my own heart. The house that had once belonged to my grandparents had come full circle, returned to the family, but on new terms. Terms that honored both its history and its future, forged in the crucible of my own resilience. Have you ever had to stand up to family pressure to protect something important to you? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to set boundaries, even with the people we love most. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and remember, your space, your rules, your peace of mind.